What's up, guys? This is the second game of two featuring a Stealth Kit deck. This time it's my opponent playing Stealth Kit. If you want to see me playing Stealth Kit, be sure to check out the first video. Now, I'm playing my HP Unfun Fast Advanced deck. It's your standard Fast Advanced deck with Sense Sensitivity and Biotic Labels. I splashed in a couple of interesting cards. I'll explain them more later. My opening hand consists of Next Silver and no Burst Economy. There's an Adonis, but it's useless because Adonis requires ice to protect it. I don't even have enough ice to protect my two centrals, let alone the Adonis, so this is not a good opening hand. I mulligan into a much better hand. It's the same agenda, but I have a Hedge Fund, one ice, and a Jackson Howard to draw more ice, so that's good. My mandatory draw was another Next Silver, which is the perfect ice against Kit. Two barriers in your opening hand, so when you put both barriers to seal up HQ and R&D, they are barriers, they will be code gates for now, but the moment I find more ice to stack onto R&D and HQ, Kit will not be able to get in without a barrier breaker. So I hope for his sake that he's running barrier breakers or parasites, because otherwise he's going to have a very tough time against my Next Silvers. I draw into a Corporate Shuffle. More on that later. First, I need to dig up my ice. As such, Jackson hits the table. I could use Corporate Shuffle to draw ice, but my fear is that it will draw me more agendas instead, and he'll be able to get through HQ easily since he's Kit after all. And more importantly, it also gets rid of the Biotic Label, which I plan to use on the Vitruvius. Yeah, since I already have a Biotic in hand, that is an upper hand for me. Why should I Corporate Shuffle it away? I should only Corporate Shuffle away a useless hand or an agenda flooded hand. Alright, so I power draw with Jackson and I find a next bronze. This is useful for sealing up a central of my choice because it will keep him out unless he has a barrier breaker. The problem is I need the next bronze to protect the Adonis. Yeah, that's a problem. Adonis requires protection and I definitely want some money to protect it. Alright, Octagon is being slow right here. For some reason it's very laggy, so you'll have to bear with me for a while. But this gives me a good amount of time to explain his deck. Now, you notice how aggressive he was. His first turn he laid out, it's pretty much the exact same opening as my Kit game, except with a lockpick instead of a cloak. So he has his Refractor out and he can rampage through any of my central servers at will. Plus, he has his Astrolabe out. I also run Astrolabe, so I'm very surprised that he's running it. I mean, both our decks are really, really uncannily similar, and that is very pleasing to watch. Him completely wrecking me, demolishing my central servers. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't found an agenda yet. And alright, so his Astrolabe is definitely causing problems. So far, he has drawn two cards with it because I installed a Jackson and now I installed an Adonis, a naked Adonis on the table. Well, Adonis is already naked, so alright, jokes aside. He express delivery something and he runs through my HQ on last click. I res the next silver. I know it won't stop him, but I want him to have to pay through two subroutines, and more importantly, to activate my other next silver. That's very important. Alright, but I'm not worried about him accessing. I mean, I could have let him through if I wanted to, but yeah. I needed to res next ice because next ice is only going to get stronger with each res. And there's another reason for that. More on that later as well. I play Cerebral Static, that red card there. The current is Cerebral Static. It is anti-noise tech, but in this case it works very well against Kit as well. Goodbye Kit, you can't get through any of my servers, except for the Adonis server. If he runs that, he'll see the Eli. But I don't think he's in the mood to trash Adonis right now. So he plays an SMC, so now he can threaten with a barrier breaker. I hope he has one for his sake. Now I actually have some time to talk about Corporate Shuffle. Corporate Shuffle is a fantastic card. One of the biggest problems that HP Fast Advanced faces, in my opinion, I could be wrong, is that you either get agenda flooded way too early, or you don't see the biotics and sense that you need to win the game. Corporate Shuffle is a great way to get all these cards. It's essentially drawing you 5 new cards. There's a very high chance that you'll find a biotic or sense in there along with an agenda that you need to score. More importantly, it also breaks R&D lock, which is very crucial against Shapers nowadays. It is quite hard to dig out of R&D lock, and if they're denying your agendas, you're just going to lose. With Corporate Shuffle, you can turn the tides in your favor by forcing them to run HQ. But this means that you need to protect HQ. In my case, I'm not drawing any agendas. All my agendas are clumped up in R&D, which is good. So his legwork there netted nothing, which was very important. I need to keep the cerebral static on the table for as long as possible, because it is definitely hampering his ability to get through my servers. Now you see the new card I draw here, Peak Efficiency. Gain 1 credit for each res piece of ice. This is the other reason why I want to res my ice as often as possible, even though I know that he has nothing. I know his access won't net anything, his access through HQ. There are no agendas in HQ, but I still want to res the next ice because it powers up Peak Efficiency. Alright, last turn, Biotic Label out Aguila Hands. This is very important. Once you have Aguila Hands scored, your game becomes much easier because you're less reliant on Adonis economy. Not that economy matters because I'm filthy rich right now. He didn't contest my Adonis, so I essentially got that's 8 credits for free for 1 click. And don't forget that I'm HP engineering the future, so every time I'm installing a new card, I'm gaining that 1 drip credit, which is adding up a lot now. Alright, he plays Dirty Laundry on my HQ. He keeps thinking there are agendas in HQ, but unfortunately for him, the only thing in there is an NEPD that he cannot steal. NEPD is so good in clean, i.e. no bad pub decks, especially fast advance, because they are focused on the early game where the runner has no credits. By the way, the Dirty Laundry run, he took that action back because he didn't have enough credits to break through next silver. He completely forgot that Cerebral Static was on the table, so he couldn't use not pick credits. That is how Cerebral Static is powerful. I denied him his Dirty Laundry right there. But it doesn't matter because now he still manages to play Dirty Laundry. He is hitting HQ because it's the most vulnerable server. See, this is the problem when you're playing Kit and you get hit by a Cerebral Static. It's so painful. And to make things worse, he finds the NAPD that he cannot steal. Yeah, it sucks playing as Kit when Cerebral Statics are, because your strategy is completely reliant on breaking through servers with only 1 ice. If you can't do that, it's very hard to play. So now, here I'm thinking, he has the same old thing out. He has a legwork. He can easily get through my server and score the NAPD because he knows the NAPD is there. I do not have a choice. I need to score the NAPD now with 2 biotics. It's very inefficient. It will cost me 11 credits to do so, mitigated only by HP's ability. But that is rough. For scoring 2 points, that is a lot of effort and money. But I had to, because otherwise these 2 agenda points will go to him, and Cerebral Static will fizzle out. Thankfully, I had the money to do that, and I still have an Adonis that's ticking down for me, so that works. Well, the other option was to play Corporate Shuffle, but once again, the huge risk is that I draw into a hand of agendas, and I cannot protect HQ in time. That would be a disaster. Remember, legwork can easily turn the tides of the game. He tries his hand at R&D this time, and I show him the bad news. He's an Architect, and he does not have Kit's ability to fall back on. So I think I get to fire Architect off here. Alright, it's time for some fun. Let's see what kind of big plays I can make with Architect. Firstly, I know that I'm going to trigger the second subroutine from Archives and install the Adonis campaign that was trashed earlier on, that had been used up. I look at my top 5 cards. Ichi is the brainless option here because he does not have a Sentry Breaker out. Then I'll install the Adonis. Alright. So the free install of Ichi basically saved me 3 credits. Putting it on as the 4th ice on the server, saving 3 credits there and a click is huge. And also being able to recycle my Adonis is another huge play because this gives me even more money to toy around with. Unfortunately, his run was successful and he scored the ABT, fizzling out my Cerebral Static. That was the biggest loss. I couldn't care less if he scored 2 points. He's nowhere near winning. But losing the Cerebral Static means that now he has a much easier time breaking through my servers, especially HQ. If you're wondering why I put ice on Archives, it's because my own kit deck runs Sneak Door Beta, and I need to guard against that potential threat. I do not want him to Sneak Door 3 times and take all the agendas from my hand after a Corporate Shuffle. Alright, he checks the new card. It's an Adonis. He's not trashing it, which could be a mistake. Adonis is pretty cheap to trash. Alright, here I think I make a rules infraction right here. What I attempt to do is to take the credits off the first Adonis before resing the second Adonis, and then taking 3 credits off the second Adonis. You cannot do that. there is only one moment, one window where the your turn begins clause can fire off, and you must rest all the cards that you want to fire off before that window occurs. So at that point, I didn't have enough credits to rest the Adonis, so I shouldn't have been able to rest it. On the other hand, if you notice my Architect installation of Adonis just now and Ichi, that netted me 1 extra credit because I'm HB engineering the future. That 1 extra credit bumped me up to 3 credits. That was very important because if he wanted to contest my first Adonis, I could rest the Eli that was protecting the Adonis. Yep, those are the subtle plays right there. Alright, unfortunately, he has his entire Breaker Suite out, so now my game has gotten that much harder. He's playing Switchblade. That's where his influence is spent on, along with all those legworks. This legwork is it's pretty pointless because, yes, there's nothing in my hand that's worth legworking. Of course, he's now feeling the pinch. He's very desperate right now. He's trying the best to make runs because he knows that R&D is nearly impossible to penetrate. Well, not nearly impossible. He has all 3 breakers out, so his life shouldn't actually be too difficult. Now, I finally performed the Corporate Shuffle. Yes, I performed the Corporate Shuffle, and this is a very good hand to see as Corporate Shuffle. 2 Jackson Howards to power draw more Biotics, and 2 more Ice in case he wants to breach R&D and HQ. Alright, now he runs my R&D. He initially uses the Cloak credits for Ichi, but takes that back later. I pointed out to him that Cloak was obviously the better choice. Yeah, I mean, using Refractor was obviously a better choice since you're Kid. It is more expensive using Refractor, but it allows him to break Architect using Switchblade, which he otherwise wouldn't have the stealth credits for. So, with Inti, he can actually get through Nyx Silver very easily. That's a problem. You don't usually say that Inti is useful, except against Wraparound, but in this game, it's very useful. They are both 1 strength, he breaks. All he has to pay is the number of subroutines on the next ice. Alright, I install another Ichi because I'm rich, and I want to burn his Switchblade out, make sure that he doesn't have enough stealth credits to make it through. Then I draw with Jackson Howard and trash the Gila hands. This is important. I only run 2 1-pointers in my deck. I've already scored 1 of them, so there's no need for the second 1-pointer, especially since its effect, Gila hands, is already useless. I already have a Gila hands. I do not want him to score it because that brings him 1 agenda closer to match point, so that must be dumped into archives and then back into R&D when time permits. He plays yet another legwork. Once again, because I dumped the Gila hands, I didn't have to worry at all. So that was probably a mistake on his part. A small mistake, admittedly, because Corporate Shuffle is not a card you usually deal with, but the best time to legwork is right after a Corporate Shuffle, because the chances of there being an agenda is high, and the Corp has very little opportunity to stash these agendas away. So now that he has given me a couple of turns to set up my Jackson Howard, I was able to dump the Architect off. Alright, so that was my turn. I have the Biotic label, I'm just waiting for a 3-2 agenda to score. So now I'm thinking of the best course of action, which is to completely seal off R&D. This is a very torturing server for him. 2 Ichis and an Architect for a runner who runs Switchblade. He's never going to have enough stealth credits to get through this server. Well, I mean, a 6-ice server is pretty harsh on any runner any day, but HB makes it so easy. Between Architect and the HB's ability, it's so easy to install ice. Alright, he gets a Ghost Runner out. I find an agenda. Unfortunately, it's an NAPD, which is undesirable, so I need to put more ice on HQ. Hopefully, I can get all 6 Nyx Ice Res, because that will tax his Refractor heavily. 6 strength Nyx Bronze means that he needs 2 stealth credits to break through each Nyx Bronze, which is prohibitively expensive. Yep. It's starting to get to the point where his stealth credits simply cannot keep up with the copious amount of ice that I have. And that is partially due to him letting me get at least 3 Adonises off. I think I got at least 4 Adonises off this game. So that's a huge problem for him. I find the ABT, top decked it, and scored it immediately. So now I'm on match point, and he is nowhere near winning the game. He can bring out as many R&D interfaces as he wants, but he cannot get through R&D. No way. We'll see. He might have some tinkerings up his sleeve. Who knows? I draw into yet another NAPD. Manually drawing, I find the Sensen. That's a huge reprieve. That is my mode of winning the game. Should I top deck a 3-2? So at this point, it's really traditional fast advance. You cannot hit HQ because there are no agendas in HQ. Well, there are, but you don't have enough credits to steal it. You have to lock R&D down because you cannot let me top deck the 3-2 agenda that would let me win the game outright. So he's in a world of hurt right now. His only route to victory is, he knows that his only means to victory is hitting R&D. But with 6 eyes on top of R&D, he can only afford 1 run. Alright, he decides to go with the legwork once more because he really is out of options at this point. He knows he cannot challenge my 6 eye server, which is a good thing. He knows his limits, but he's about to see the bad news. He spent all his credits to break through my HQ. I told him he's not going to like what he sees. He sees 2 NAPDs, neither of which he can steal. That's rough. He spent so many credits getting in. He spent his same old thing to retrieve his legwork, and it was for nothing. Well, I top deck the Vitruvius, and with a Sensei out, I win the game. So it looked like I crushed him, and I guess I did, but at the end of the day, this is what HP does, and this is why HP Fast Advance is so scary. The only reason why everyone's on the Astro train is because Astro script is in NBN. That is the only reason why NBN Fast Advance is superior to HP. Even that is questionable, because look at my ice. HP ice is fantastic. Nick's ice is phenomenal. Even against noise, if he mills you with Parasite, well, you just install more ice. And Architect cannot be parasited down, which is a huge benefit for playing in HP. You don't have to splash for Lotus Fields anymore when you have Architect around. If they don't break your Architect, guess what? You get to install those Nyx Eyes that they just trash with Parasite. How good is that? So HP is starting to become a force to be reckoned with. And as for the splashes of Corporate Shuffle and Cerebral Static, those are mainly, I guess you could say they are anti-noise tech. Corporate Shuffle doesn't seem like anti-noise, but I think it works because you need to reserve those Jackson Howards for milled agendas. Virus milling. You need to save Jackson to save all those agendas that were milled. So if you want to power draw or retrieve lots of cards, find your biotics, find your combo components, you need Corporate Shuffle. 2 influence a pop, I think it's worth it. Need more experimenting though. Thanks for watching and happy net runnings. You're out.